Africa. Guinea-Bissau's President José Mario Vaz sacks his entire government, creating doubts over next month's elections. The United Nations Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs warns of a humanitarian crisis in parts of Somalia caused by floods following heavy rains. Plus, NGOs call on EU nations to find a port for rescued migrants aboard Ocean Viking. Hello and a warm welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shoboale. We begin today in Guinea-Bissau, where President José Mario Vaz has sacked his government with immediate effect, creating doubts over next month's elections. Mr. Vaz says the decision, which was read out on national radio, was based on what he called a serious political crisis in the country, which had prevented the normal operations of some institutions. The move comes days after Prime Minister Aristide Gomez denounced a coup attempt and police violently repressed an opposition protest. The opposition wants the election delayed to give it time to clean up the election registrar to prevent voter fraud. The 62-year-old president has been in office since 2014 after he won a tight presidential contest that was decided in a runoff. Mr. Vaz's term in office ended on June 23rd, but he is staying on temporarily under a plan mediated by the regional bloc ECOWAS. He will contest the next election as an independent candidate, along with 11 other candidates. In Cameroon, rescue workers and the military are searching the wreckage of houses after a torrential downpour caused floods and a landslide that killed at least 14 people and trapped over 40 underground in the western village of Banmungum. The governor of Cameroon's West region, Awafonka Augustine, says 20 houses were destroyed and 9 bodies have been transported to the regional hospital. He said 4 more bodies will follow and at least a dozen people have been severely injured. Cameroon's Minister of Decentralization, George Elanga Obam, visited rescue workers and handed out financial assistance from the president. It is estimated that at least 120 people live in the neighborhood that was swept by the floods. Now, the UN Security Council Somalia Sanctions Committee has said that the current political and security contest in the country is vastly different from when the arms embargo was first instituted in 1992. The Council further adds that it must be streamlined, simplified and updated to reflect the current realities of counterinsurgency in Somalia. Though long-standing restrictions on the importation of weapons have largely prevented their flow into the hands of Somali Islamist group Al-Shabaab, those measures need to be updated to better reflect reality on the ground. Belgian UN Ambassador Mark Pekstein de Boitswerf, who was briefing the Security Council, noted that Somalia is on a positive trajectory with key achievements on the political, economic, humanitarian and security fronts. But the envoy said the country remains vulnerable to climatic shocks and escalating conflict, while inconsistent funding continues to challenge the delivery of humanitarian assistance. Well, the United Nations Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs has raised an alert of a humanitarian crisis in parts of Somalia caused by floods following heavy rains. The agency estimates about 182,000 people have been displaced by the floods. Most of those displaced are from the town of Beledweyne. Rescue and relief efforts are underway. A boat carrying at least 30 people capsized on Monday in the town, leading to the death of at least 10 people. While many others are thought to be missing. Somalia's President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo met with members of the recently formed Floods Relief Committee and religious leaders to discuss how to offer aid to the victims. He appealed to the international community to assist those affected by the floods. And tens of thousands of people in the Central African Republic have lost their homes as a result of prolonged and heavy rains, which caused a major river to burst its banks almost 2 weeks ago. The government estimates that more than 20,000 people were made homeless across its provinces and an additional 8,000 in the capital.
Thousands of residents in Bangui, the capital of the Central African Republic, are now homeless after 2 days of non-stop rain, bringing about severe flooding. Adding to the menace, the river Ubangui also burst its banks. More than 1,000 homes in Bangui have been lost or destroyed.
It is really sad. It's a disaster. Water flooded our home and destroyed all our belongings. Children can't go to school and our food situation is hard. It's cold. We don't have any shelter, not even plastic to protect us. The government needs to take care of us.
A coordinator for one of the makeshift camps set for the residents displaced by the flood in Bangui said he was concerned because more houses were likely to crumble. Pastor Kibara also said the camps lacked basic protection for the displaced. The government declared the crisis a national catastrophe on Monday and is appealing for national and international help.
Les premières évaluations.
There are approximately 1,200 people across 2 camps. As you can see, it is raining. There are no covers, and there's still a great risk because some houses that have not collapsed will collapse.
Prime Minister Femi Ngrembada says the country has been bit by unusually heavy rainfall over the last few weeks, causing the river levels to rise uncontrollably. Fighting continues in pockets of the country, and natural disasters only exacerbate the fragile peace, pulling at already limited resources.
And here in Nigeria, over 100 communities and farmlands in 9 local government areas of Adamawa State have been submerged by flood. The Executive Secretary of the Adamawa State Emergency Management Agency, Mr. Mohammed Suleiman, who confirmed this to journalists in Yola, the capital, says government is assessing the effects of the flood and will provide relief for the victims.
Streets overtaken by flood, houses partially submerged. These communities living on the brink of River Benue in Adamawa State woke up to this surprise. Canoe has become a means of transportation here, and where the water is low, residents walk through. The impact is deeply felt.
We are appealing to government to come to our aid, and if there are available higher grounds, we should be relocated there. Right now, all the food items we kept for our feeding has been washed off by the flood, so we have no food.
It has taken almost 10 years when you saw what happened now. We need help, any angle, especially those that water enter their houses.
The farms are also affected by the flood, and it's taking its toll on the farmers.
The level of water that is coming in from Cameroon axis, I doubt very much if this is as a result of the rainfall we are witnessing, because all our farms now are being submerged, and you see farmers have received loan from Central Bank for 6 or 7 commodities, and all the commodities, all the farmers now are suffering this loss. So this is a great loss to our farmers, and we need government intervention from it.
And what is government doing about all these?
Still, we are on assessment. We are assessing the level, and as it is right now, we are establishing camps for those that doesn't have where to put their head on. And after that, the state government is preparing to respond. The federal government through NEMA are coming tomorrow. The partners are all ready for response.
The 9 local government areas affected by the flood include Yola North, Yola South, Furfure, Gere, Demsa, Numan, Lamurde, Guyuk, and Chelen. The flood is suspected to come from the release of water from the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon. While residents wait to see how the governments of the 2 countries will address yearly release of water from the dam, The people in Nigeria remain at the receiving end.
To other stories now, traders in Gambia are counting their losses after a fire destroyed millions of dollars worth of goods at a major industrial area outside the capital. At least 50 vehicles were burnt to ashes, with one businessman saying he had lost $2 million in property and stock. Eyewitnesses say the blaze was started at a cooking gas store, but the first firefighters that came could not contain it. They had to call another crew from Banjul Airport with specialist equipment. People living nearby had to abandon their homes. No deaths have been reported so far. Now, Boeing CEO Dennis Muilenburg has offered his condolences to families of the victims of the Ethiopia and Indonesia crash before facing questions from U.S. lawmakers. The head of the U.S. aircraft manufacturer is to face lawmakers in Washington over two fatal crashes in Ethiopia and Indonesia of the 737 MAX aircraft. 346 passengers died in the crashes. An advance copy of Chief Executive Dennis Muilenburg's comment suggests he will accept that Boeing made mistakes and got things wrong. It is his first public appearance since the disasters. Let's bring in our correspondent, Maria Bird, who is in Washington, D.C. Maria, glad to have you join us. Well, what's the situation in Washington now? The Boeing CEO prepares to meet lawmakers, and what sort of questions is he likely to face in Congress?
Well, a little over an hour ago, the live testimony began, and he is expected to receive questions from the Senate in regards to what has Boeing done to ensure these aircrafts are safe to travel. Obviously, these are some of the largest planes that hit the air in the U.S. and across the world, and this is causing major challenges, especially for domestic travel, but also international travel, with these planes having to be grounded. And so they're expected today to really grill him hard. But again, as you stated, he has taken a very humble approach to stating that they are responsible, and he's very apologetic for the situation. And again, that will not bring back the lives, but I think it will potentially get Senate past the issue of what has happened in the past, and looking forward to seeing what they have done to ensure this will not happen again.
Yeah, but what comes next exactly after today? Is the Federal Aviation Administration likely to approve the 737 MAXs on grounding?
Many people and analysts believe that they are likely to release these planes to hit the air again, as many of the recommendations that were suggested have been done to those aircrafts. And again, Boeing believes that they are going to be able to ensure the safety of the aircrafts if they do hit the air again. And as we know, the air traffic controllers have been having a difficult time due to the fact that they are missing so many planes in the air, and so many passengers are not able to have timely flights. And there's just been a ton of challenges with the airports, especially domestically, but internationally as well.
All right, Maria, just before I let you go, today is the anniversary of the tragic Indonesian Lion Air crash in 2017. You heard, well, Muilenburg has offered his condolences to the families. Let's speak about the families of the crash victims. What comments have they been making concerning this latest development, and especially as the aircraft could be allowed to fly again?
Of course, the families are devastated. Their loved ones were lost as a result of this. And so I think they're kind of still there. Whether or not these aircraft should hit the air again, I'm not sure if they have directly spoken to being against it, as much as they are just very much concerned about, on a day like today, having these conversations about potentially having these aircrafts where their loved ones were lost, being able to fly again.
All right, then, Maria Bird, thank you so much for speaking to us on Network Africa.
Thank you.
Still to come on the program. The International Committee of the Red Cross and its Zambian counterpart appealed for $3.5 million to avert catastrophic food insecurity. That's in a moment. Stay with us.